Okay. Once more, my outstanding friends. Another chakra du jour. I cannot stop the chakra du jours. They are like a fountain that cannot be stopped. And what are we looking at here? Today's chakra du jour. This is Australia. Well, what's so special about Australia? Well, let's get down a little closer and I'll show you. Okay, my friends, they are rewriting the rules on exceptional fossil sites. They're talking about Australia. Red rocks are from blood. Red is from blood. It's iron oxides. And they're talking about hidden beneath the farmland central table, New South Wales, lies one of Australia's most extraordinary fossil sites. Well, not really. And it goes down to talk about a whole bunch of things and how things, it's literally everywhere around the world, literally. Now, it says, by contrast, sedimentary rocks made entirely of iron are the last place you'd expect to find well-preserved remains of land-based animal and plant life. No. The iron red rich blood, that's from blood. Mud is literally bloody flesh that has eroded. It says it's because iron-rich sedimentary rocks are predominantly known from banded iron formations. Those are the layers of muscle, banded iron. I talk about them all the time. These massive iron deposits largely formed 2.5 billion years ago in Earth's ancient oxygen-depleted oceans, long before complex animal and plant life evolved. That's just not true. It's not true at all. All of this stuff, the banded iron formations, the sedimentary rock, iron-rich, that's from blood, my friends. Okay, what I'm going to show you, it's absolutely stunning even to me. That is Ayers Rock, Uluru, which is the Aboriginal name. And I'm going to show you what that actually is in graphic detail. Now, they are talking about the ancient stories. I want to see what the ancient text was. Who said what about this? Who were the earliest speakers on Ayers Rock, Uluru? They have it both, but Ayers Rock is a modern name they gave it. Anyway, from the Aboriginal tradition, it's described its creation by ancestral beings during the dream time. The myths explain the formation of the rock as a result of battles or journeys, with specific features like caves and fissures attributed to the actions of different ancestral beings. Well, I don't go along with that. I say that is literally biology. Now, it comes down to where it's a spiritual significance. It covers really what it is. It says the stories are part of the dream time. This is when everything was sort of foundation of everything. The foundational concept in Aboriginal belief that explains the creation of the world and the origins of life. Well, what is this world created of? There's a big piece there. I'm going to show you what it's created of, and it is biological. Who put it there? I can't say. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to be looking at biology. The physical embodiment, Uluru, is seen as physical evidence of the ancestors' time on Earth. Yes, something's crazy there. The ancestral beings are said to reside within the rock and other natural features as their final resting spots. Yes, that is absolutely factually true. The ancestral beings, whoever they were, because that, my friends, is a heart, and I'm going to show it to you, and I don't see how you can possibly dismiss it. All right, this is at Uluru, and this is some kind of little blood vessel here which can move around. All right, this is also, all of these are from Uluru. All right, there it is right here. These bands are not just bands for no reason there. Those are muscle fibers that wrap that heart. And this is what they look like when they erode away, and this is what's in heart muscle. It is the same thing, and it is a heart, trust me. And here it is from above, and red blood makes things grow very, very green, as you can see. This is nothing more than bands of heart muscle. That's all it is. And they run in ropes, just like this. And the other thing I was showing you when we started is near Uluru, only a certain distance away, and it is still part of this same heart, I'm sure. See that? That's nothing more than heart muscle. It's eroding away. It's like the skin around it, and it's eroding away, and we're seeing down into the heart muscle. I'm sure you can see that. You see that? That's what's inside of a heart. A heart is almost all muscle and connective tissue, and then absolutely saturated with blood. That thing is working all day long for your entire life. And it is just, there's as much blood in the tissue as there is inside the heart, as far as I'm concerned. All right, this is Uluru, and these are the bands of muscle, and they come like in ropes. And this is what it looks up close. They're just ropes that come down. They're ropes of muscle bands, and this is what muscle looks like in a heart. Is the cardiac muscle, and it loops and does all these kind of things. Now I'm going to show you, we're at Uluru. Let's say it's down here. It could be anywhere. I have no idea where it is, but it's a little tiny piece like this. That's Uluru. We're going to go somewhere else, and it's got like something that's doing one of these things, whatever, something. I'll show you. So let's say that's where Uluru is. We're going to go to another place. Could be right only down here. It could be way up here. I don't know. Let's go look. Okay, if you know anything about blood meal, you know that blood meal makes things grow extremely green, which this is just nothing but a big chunk of blood, basically. Even though you have a lot of fibrous stuff, it's so saturated with blood. This is what you get. All of that is, that runoff is green because it's very, very fertile. This is nothing more than blood. Now, but it's the tiniest little bit of a heart. Where do you see where the rest of it is? And I think I'm starting to understand what it is. You see, here we are at Uluru. Well, what's this doing here? You see that? Remember I talked about heart muscle doing one of these things? I don't know what it's doing, but that's what it is. It's heart muscle. It's more of this heart. You see it sweeping around, and these fibers, you know, and then these going this way. Something's going on. Now, I'm starting to think this may have something to do, this circle right here, with the valve of a heart. And this also, you see how black that is? You see how red that is? That's redder than the rest of the red. And this is blacker than the rest of the black. And this is just one big round spot here. Now, hearts have valves, and they have just a ton of plumbing. This is all, I believe this whole thing is part of Uluru, or Uluru is part of that. But this extremely red here is something to do with an artery. Of that, there is virtually no doubt. And arteries and veins run close to each other, but they don't like each other. I think this could be a vein valve or something along those lines. But then we get right here, zzz, we get into the red. and that's artery, and that is just a brilliant red. I mean, I've always said, I've referred to Australia as one gigantic scab. It's just all solid red. Now don't forget, Uluru's down here. I don't see how anybody can dismiss the things like I'm showing here as being related to Uluru. And when I focus in on it, I could take a long time to do this, you know, and I do, but people don't want to get dragged through this stuff. But you can see there's a certain distance it's running off to us. And this is biology that's growing here. That's stuff that's growing. You see, it's green stuff. I don't think these are rocks, but they could be. And they could be the tendon enthesis balls, as a matter of fact, now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, it could be. We're 561 meters up. These could be the tendon enthesis balls. Because they're going to be there, and everything's eroded away from it. That could very well be what those are. And they pile up just like that. Look at this. I believe that's what we're looking at now that I'm looking at it. This is exactly what happens to the Moki marbles. Now they could still have some edible stuff on them, and they're still being eaten into, because that's what's happened. That's what happens to these balls. I'll show you how I believe that's what we're looking at. It's enthesis balls. After it eroded out, because they're in there. Everything that has to move like this is going to have to be anchored with these kind of little balls directly underneath the membranes, or well, maybe above or below, but anyway, they're right there with the membranes, making you be able to do all this stuff and come back to where they're anchored. And now they're just washed out of there, just like the Moki marbles, only these puppies are gigantic. And I think right there is where they are. We could find them if you went there. Look at the blood. Just stunning amount of blood. The whole thing here. Now, is that entirely one big heart? Hearts, well, here's part of it right here. This is it's eroded heart fabric. Now, I have a lot of shots open here. I showed you the muscle fibers, that they are basically the same as Uluru. I showed you Uluru with all this green stuff growing around it, and this is a very tiny little spot on the heart. It's very tiny. And this here is in the United States, and Lassen National Park, I believe. Lassen, I think it is. It's in California somewhere. This is heart tissue, same stuff. And this is what a heart looks like, and this is the iron banding. That's why the top breaks right off and you get the bottom. Most of the hearts that I see and have the top is broken off, and you get right down to here. Because the black and the red push each other apart. Black is when it's fossilized. But you can see how much blood is in there. You see this? Remember I showed you that big round one, and then there was other stuff coming off, and there was all that red and muscle. There would be all that muscle would be here. This just shows you how much blood you need to make that muscle work. And I think that right there was their shot. Remember this shot right here? And you'd have muscle over here wrapping all the way around, in the ground, laying on the ground, whatever. It appears it was mostly in the ground, because here's Uluru. All right, don't forget, there's their muscle. And we come up here, and I think that could be that big valve. And right near it, you got black and you got red, because vein and artery have to work together. You always have vein and artery. And in mud fossils, they always turn black, and they always are extremely red. And I believe that's what we got here. is what I was just showing you here. This is showing, I think, just strictly artery. But there's going to be veins in here with it. Whether or not one of these is veins, I don't know. But the veins usually turn black. What else can I show you about this? I think I made a pretty good presentation. And even in space. This right here, this is asteroid Bennu. They went out and they picked up a sample, brought it back to Earth, and it's heart muscle, just like what I was just showing you. Heart sarcomeres are in that. They brought back this sample right here. Those are heart sarcomeres. And there's a layer of membranes on top and membranes below. That is the bundle of muscle, and these are the individual pinchers. And they can't, this is here. They know it's got all the signatures of life, every single thing. The amino acids, everything. And it came back from this, which is a heart. As you can see, they had another one out here. They're going to right now is psyche. This one is another heart. This is it right here. It's the same as this. And the top blows off just like I showed you before because of iron banding. There's a blue and a red, and that pops right off. And it happens all the time. It's not unusual. This pops right off. Off that goes to where, who knows where. And this is nothing more than the tendon, some bloodish spots, and the valves. And the same thing, and that sucker is gigantic, and the same thing with this is the same stuff. Same exact stuff. And this, I believe, is a valve. And that, I believe, could be a valve. And this gigantic one could be a valve. They have huge valves in them. As I showed you, coming out of here. There's all those tubes, and now the ones in space that they're going to right now, Psyche, has tubes coming out of it. Look, you see this? It's got a tube coming out of it here. Can anybody deny that? It's got a tube coming out here. These are not CGI. These are, they can see this stuff. This is exactly what this thing looks like, and these are the exact colors of the blood, which is iron oxides. Red, yellow, black. It's the phases that iron goes through as you are becoming oxygenated. All right, the red is good, our oxygenated blood, and the black is used up. And they go one way and they'll go the other way through the hearts as valves. And there's several of them, as I showed you here. Same thing here as what you're seeing here. No difference whatsoever. And they say it's almost all metals. That's why they're so interested in it, because there's so much metal there. Blood contains almost all, well, it contains basically all the metals. They just did a study on 26 different metals, and that's not all of them that are in your blood. And I talked to, well, I didn't talk to them, they won't talk to me. I tried getting through to all of them. The university, I think it's the University of Arizona, is supposed to be doing all this work, and nobody will talk to me. I don't care who it is. So we have to accept walking around in circles for 2 years. I sent them all this information before they even came back with it. I said, here's what you're going to find, and that's exactly what they did find. I didn't know they'd come back with actual sarcomeres. That really got lucky, because what happened is they went down inside. They blew off all this stuff with a nitrogen cartridge, and poof, and it went down way down below what they thought, and it grabbed actual muscle. They had a pincher there, and they pulled it back up into a perfect capsule, came back to Earth, and here's what it was. And when I saw the sarcomeres and the phosphate surprise, which is the phospholipids, I was just blown away. And then they announced, yes, it has all the amino acids. It's got all of their, it's what it is. They can't get their mind around this reality, that the myth that we were told were just nothing more than mythology, and it was silly. They were making up stories all over the world, the same stories. No. The stories they were not making up were the history they were telling. That's the real story. And you see this? This is exactly what they came back with. This is the same thing as here on Earth from a heart attack victim. These are muscle sarcomeres. These are the phosphate layers. These are the blocky sarcomeres that make your heart pull in and out. This is a tear in the heart. This is what they came back right here. You see it? Here it came back with these little tiny blocks that are the same as the sarcomeres. Here's the layers of phosphates. They landed on a heart, picked up a piece of heart, came back, cost $1 billion plus a lot. And it's been here 2 years, and they expect to be studying it for 10 years before they can figure out what it is. It's got all the amino acids. It's got the uracil. I mean, these are complex little chemistry sets. They're not, and they say, yes, this is all organic, this is all from life, but maybe it's bringing it here. No, they took it off a heart that you can see structurally, anatomically. It is a heart. It has big valves. It has valves. It's completely covered, the red, black, and the yellow, which is the colors of the blood. And they went deep down, they grabbed it, they came back with it. And here it is, it's what it is. So until this stuff gets examined for what it really is, and I have all the stuff here, it's not like I don't have it. My stuff is DNA tested. These are fingerprints from, my thumb is about as wide as one fingerprint ridge, and this is peeled right off of a huge finger that is right here somewhere. Right there, it's 3 feet long, from the very back to the very, very tip of the front. That's the fingernail. That's a little pad between bones so you don't get all scuffed up. Vein and artery. When I found it, it was complete. The piece I just showed you with the fingerprints was right here. And the only place I could see, it was just solidly formed, where there was nothing I could get into just to try to get blood. There's a very thick stuff on fingers. It's called grip skin. So I could see that right next to the fingernail was right there. So I slammed this and it just popped right off. I got it right here. Hold on. It's and it's hard. Here. And this is it right here. This is what I was showing you right there. Remember I showed you the fingerprints? There they are right there. That's what came off. Actually, it was right about like this. And the fingerprints were wrapped over the edge. And they start right next to your fingernail. So anyway, that came off, and it came off, you see, whoops, you see that? It was like a scab. It was just on there, that's how grip skin attaches. It's not really, it's almost like a glove on your hand. That's not fractured. When I popped that, it just broke right off. And just popped off like it was a scab. You can see it. It's not, that's not all scruffy, broken up. You know, like that. This was the outside of that rock, and there's a cut piece, and here's what it looks like when it's broken up. This is just like a scab that came off, right off of there. And underneath, it was saturated with blood, which I had DNA tested, and it's mother's human mitochondrial DNA. All right, like I said, this is biology. I don't care what anybody says. That is biology. You see that? Nobody erected these stones. It's still giving off a lot of fresh red blood right now. All right, look at this. Look at this. Now, this is, again, Australia. I can't find anything here that I can't see that's not biology. Uluru is over here as we were looking, and right not too far from it is, I consider, probably going to be a vein valve or heart valve or something. And there's your vein and your artery right up next to it. And this is some kind of fabric or maybe a valve, or I don't know what. But you see these here? I look for the patterns. I've been doing this a long time. This is not hard for me to understand now. I don't know exactly what it is, but I can tell you what, this is a pattern of biology. There's no question about that. Zero. What it did, is it a valve? I don't know. I don't know what it is. But it's certainly somewhere where things are gathered. I would say it's more than likely some form of a valve. Now, arteries do not have valves. Arteries just come and go, and this is just sort of kind of globbed up blood, basically. This would be more valve-oriented. And down here, this is something. It's I don't know what it is, but there's no question that is part of a biological membrane-ish thing. You know, there's no really quick answers here. You know, you come up and do your own research and look into it. But I've looked into it pretty close, and as far as I can determine, there is virtually nothing that isn't, well, there is nothing that isn't biological. It's not virtually, there is nothing that's not biological. Everything is. And I think I showed you, well, I know I showed you this, which I believe is all muscle oriented, and I believe these are all the balls that have eroded away. Just like they eroded away, and they're in the desert, called the Moki marbles. They're around here somewhere. Hold on one second. Alright, this is spectacular. This is in Australia. These are the little balls, I'm almost certain. This is the tissue layers that were on the heart. Now you can see the straps, basically. Even you can actually see where the balls were attached and the straps. You see how they're in alignment here? What's growing here green is because there was some fleshy stuff there that it allows it to grow well. The green is from blood, eating blood. I'm not kidding you. That's literally what it is. And here's Uluru, which is nothing more than blood. And that looks pretty green to me. I don't think you get much greener than that. Alright. That's about as green as you're going to get. And it's coming right out of the muscle fibers. There's blood feeding this thing everywhere. And that right there is some kind of a little blood vessel was there. There's something else feeding out right out of here. There's some kind of blood coming out of there. You see all the little lines here? This is all part of muscle structure and fibers. All right, so that's Uluru. As far as I'm concerned, I don't see anything in Australia that's not biological, and most everything I see is literally saturated with blood. I mean, that's about as red as you want to get. It looks like it washed out of here at some point, or something happened here. And of course, everything was here on the earth when the Great Flood came, and it washed over all kinds of things. This is known. It's not unknown. But it does, it has that texture to it, like almost like somebody painted it with a brush. You see that? That's amazing, isn't it? But see, it has the straps going this way too over here. It's hard to figure out what this is. I really got to do a lot more looking here. But nothing really makes sense other than the fact that Uluru is a heart. And it's just a tiny little speck here when you start to think how big this thing could be, this heart. Because there's a million little pieces of muscle and so forth on a regular heart. And by the way, I think I showed you this, maybe I didn't. These are the Moki marbles. These are the same things I was showing you out in Australia that are down, that have, you know, these are the things that wrap around. And you can do all kind of stuff like this, but these balls are in certain places and you come back to them. This is in the United Kingdom. It's eroding away and the balls are just floating there or dropping here. They're very heavy. They're going to end up being stones like this after all this stuff is eaten, because that's what it is. It's edible stuff. It's coming out of a creature's body. And here's how many there are. You see this? This is the fluid-filled highway. This is layers of tissue, fluid-filled highway, balls that allow your flesh to do all this stuff and pull these fluid-filled bags and then come back to where they're supposed to be. Those balls are all over. I mean, they're all over the world, everywhere, and they're all over every place else. So I'm sorry, that's just the nature of a universe that is made of biology. And at this point, there is no longer nobody's contesting this. I haven't had anybody contest this at all. Not a single person. Which means I win. It means I'm right. And they're wrong. If they're making other statements about these things, which they do, and I address every one of them, and they refuse to engage because they are wrong and I am right, so I win. And Mudfossils is 100% confirmed, and they are from very big creatures that had very big hearts and had fabric of hearts and valves and all that stuff, and had big lungs that went around with their big hearts. And people walked over and saying, wow, look at that. That almost looks like a heart. Well, that's just because it's a heart. It doesn't just look like one. And they break on that line almost all the time. Not every time. I have one here that didn't. Anyway, my stuff is DNA tested, CAT scan, yada, 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 yada. We live in a biological universe, and there is blood everywhere in Australia. It's just saturated with blood, saturated. And Uluru could be just a little piece like here. I don't know. The whole thing could be a heart as far as I'm concerned. At this point, I don't know what to think about Australia other than that it's just one big blob of blood. I mean, that's just all blood as far as I'm concerned. All the way down, probably all the way to here. Now, what this is, I don't know. I look for patterns. There's some kind of patterns going on here and there, which I will have to look into deeper. I don't see anything other than the fact that it's a heart. This is kind of interesting. I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know, my friends. So let's let's spread the word about mud fossils. It's true, it's real. They are our ancient past. There were dragons, there were gigantic fish. They were attacking each other, as was written in the ancient texts. Time to awake yourself up and think about trueness and reality and what makes sense to you and what doesn't, and dismiss not what you do not understand, however spectacular it may sound. And in the words of Jesus Christ, search until you find. When you find, you will be disturbed, and then you will marvel. And then he says, then you will reign over all, because you'll be knowledgeable, you'll be understanding, you'll be intelligent, you'll be thoughtful. And it leads in so many other pathways. It could lead to compassion and love and understanding, and every single other thing it leads to comes from mud fossils from my life now. Before, I had nothing, zero, as far as my life was concerned. It was just a blank slate of nothingness. Basically, now that I'm understanding, you know, I didn't have the things I should have had going for me. I did all right. I mean, I wasn't terrible. Well, it wasn't good. Anyway, let's forget about all that. Once you find, do not turn backwards. Once you find, keep going. You turn backwards, you're done. All right, I love you all. Thank you. Have a sterling afternoon.